So thank you for coming today, David.
No, it's great to be here.
Yeah, good stuff. Just to give a bit of context to the video, we've got you in the office today. Broadly, because we see the landscape of dentistry is quite radically shifting. We're seeing kind of more losers out there, but there's also massive opportunities to kind of enhance your financial position. A big part of our offering is working with partners who can enable dentists to do that more, and we work obviously with you guys at Vision. Initially, to get us going, could you give us a bit of your background and how you ended up doing what you're doing?
Yeah, of course. So I started off on a farm in Staffordshire, potato farm, which was hard work, but, taught me a lot about industry. I kind of didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left university, and then went into a sales role just because I thought it'd be transferable skills. And then I ended up at the NFU, Mutual National Farmers Union, doing commercial insurance, and became a partner at one of those agencies. And that's kind of when I started getting involved in regulated businesses. And my father-in-law asked me if I wanted to join his company, which was a financial planning firm. And at first I said no a few times just because, I thought I wasn't married then, by the way. And I thought that it'd just be too tough.
Family and business, I can speak from experience as well. So
moving
it's
away.
tough to navigate. Because in that relationship, it almost has to be business first, which makes it a bit weird anyway, but yeah.
It's a hard dynamic. On the farm, it didn't work because I was working with my dad. It just didn't work, which is fine. But this really, really did. And we kind of had the conversation. If it doesn't, I can go and get a job. That's absolutely fine. Let's just be honest with each other. But it just worked really well. So working with Alana, my wife, who's also a financial planner at the firm, and getting trained by Kevin, my father-in-law, who'd been in the industry, or profession rather, for over 40 years. So I think the main reason I joined was I definitely took an interest in helping business owners in the previous role. But I think his experience and seeing the way he was in terms of communicating, helping people really stuck out to me. And I thought if I can spend 3 to 5 years kind of working with him as a mentor, then I'd be in a really good place. And then fast forward to last year, bought the business, Alana and I, off Kevin, and he's taken a back seat and does a more consultancy role. And we started getting a lot of introductions to dentists. And what I found was they were receiving some really basic advice. So what I mean by that is they were getting told about pensions and ISAs and protection, but they weren't actually being asked the really important questions in what we do, which is, why are you doing what you're doing? What's it all for?
Yeah, well, it's kind of, there's this semantic trap that it's like, it's what an IFA does, that's what they do, but you're very much aligned with Hive's values, which is taking the long-term view, spending a bit more time with the client to understand what they really want, rather than possibly what they think they want, I suppose. It's like, what do we provide? We provide, our biggest service line's accountancy, but that's incredibly generic. What we're really trying to do is create that financial freedom for our clients from their businesses. So what we've really enjoyed with working with you, and we have worked with other providers in the past, is it complements more than any other service. So I can think of a few clients that might be my consultancy clients that they'll be discussing with me. They might be thinking about acquiring, third, fourth, fifth site, but they'll have a chat with you. It's maybe even a bit more personal, a bit more disconnected from the business, and you really discover what it is they're after, which is they just want a comfortable retirement, this income, and actually they could probably do it with what they've got today. From our discussions over the past few weeks, how often is that the case that people don't really understand how well they've done, how well they're doing, and how close that kind of freedom could be?
I'd go, it's 90% at the time. I think what you mentioned there is really important, and I think that's why us working together works so well, because you've got the tax advisory, you've got the accountancy, the business consultancy, and being able to do financial planning as that kind of three-dimensional exporting of subcontracting of your finance arm is really important, and we'll work really well together. So it's kind of, a lot of dentists are time poor, like most business owners. So if we can just take that completely away from them and they know that they're in a good place, and we can do a lot of the work behind the scenes together, working with Simon, working with yourself and Ross, I'm just really excited about that as a proposition, to be able to help people. There's not anything like that I know of in the market.
Yeah, completely. I mean, we talk about it all the time, so it always spins me out to some degree, like how almost every client that joins us, we can find a tax saving, and you kind of wonder, well, how's that possible? Because they've all inherently had to have been paying an accountant. And it's this kind of misunderstanding of what an accountant actually does, I suppose. So, 95% of accountants in the UK are doing their job, which in their eyes is making you compliant with HMRC. So the way accountants are trained is to essentially be agents of HMRC and enforce the tax laws upon their clients. So we obviously take care of our clients and make sure it's compliant, but we try and go this extra step where we spend more time with the client, understand what they want, because then you can start to eke out tax wins and wealth wins, which is where the kind of synthesis comes in really nicely. And the reason I think most firms do it, and it's not because they don't think they should, it's really hard to execute. So as you said, dentists are time poor. There's also a kind of language barrier. So we're all speaking English, but we've got different technical knowledge and different things. So it's very difficult to get a client to the point where they understand their current context and then understand this very technical tax advice. Weirdly, once you've got the wealth position, because that's quite specific, I don't know, it kind of makes the tax position easier to understand or something, but potentially it's thankless. So it's not that other advisors are doing, that they're doing what their job is, which is, I'll put your pension in here because you've asked me to put your pension in here.
Yeah.
They don't feel it's their job to go that step further and understand what it is. Is that kind of similar? Because my perception of IFAs, is that fair or is that grossly unfair?
No, that's really similar. And I think you don't know what you don't know. And if you've got an accountant, let's say, that's doing the very basic level, which is, an administrator for HMRC, and you get on with them well and they're a nice guy, you think they're doing a good job because you don't know any better. So it's just about raising awareness and actually saying, well, there's actually more to this stuff, which is really important. And going back to the point you mentioned about getting their personal stuff in order, that personal vision, almost similar to what you do with a business vision when you're looking at strategic planning. It's really important because it shapes the decisions you make downstream, and you can always refer to that and say, hold on a minute, I've not got this issue. Are we going to do, I guess we'll talk about in a minute, am I going to buy this other practice, or am I going to expand these surgeries? Let's look at what my vision is and let's see if it aligns with it. And a really common one is, I want to spend time with my family and I want to do nice things and give them nice experiences while I'm still here. And a lot of the time when I'm talking to clients and prospects about what they want to do, initially they come in saying, we need to grow, I want to buy another practice, I need to do this. And then once we dig deeper, we actually realise that's not really what they want to do. It's kind of what they think they should be doing.
And I think that's the nice foil or devil's advocate position to what I do, because I feel if people are working with me in a business context, although my agenda is always to help them get what they want from their business and from the business of dentistry, so there's no kind of off-the-shelf recommendations because there can't be. I feel that they bias towards telling me like kind of bolder ambitions because it feels like almost with our business hats on, we should always want more, which is not necessarily the case because more asset value in your entity inherently comes with more headaches and actually more risk as well. And the risks are much realer than they used to be. You rarely saw any kind of car crashes in the industry, but we're kind of seeing more and more. And in fairness, no one's going to end up on the street. You're still a dentist, still a fantastic industry. It's just that your practice that might have been worth £1.5 million, if you haven't optimized it through the past 5 years, it won't be worth that now. It may even be worth less than £1 million. So valuations have gone down and your costs have inherently gone up. So the multiple value's gone down and your margins have generally gone down. So it's still a fantastic industry to be in, but it's that clarity of kind of what do you really want? Because if you can focus on that, you've got a target that you're working towards from the wealth position. We can really align your business to serve your objectives. Often it might just be exit the business and kind of work as a dentist for a few more years, and then you can kind of do what you like. That's the kind of beauty of being in this industry and getting good advice rather than off-the-shelf advice, which most things end up being, broadly because it's easier and you don't have to spend as much time speaking with the client and understanding their situation. What'd be interesting to do, David, is could you just talk through a few, obviously anonymised, but some kind of case studies of what you've seen working with dentists and what the outcomes might have been for them?
Yeah, definitely. But just one thing you mentioned there, the clarity. I think it's really important, the clarity of where you are now and a clear understanding of your position, and both with your business or career, financial position as well, but also where you want to be. And again, I'd say 75% of people don't really know what they want because they've just got their head down. You leave school, you go to uni, you get a mortgage, you have kids. Before you know it,
well, we've discussed it. When did you think you had to get your act together?
Exactly. I think it was about
between 26 and 28. I think was the markers we had, and then it takes probably till your 30s to kind of sort it out. With dentists, they've kind of been deliberate in their career because you have to plan early to become a dentist. But the financial thing, this is the UK as a whole. No one's told about it, and you don't realise. The only thing you probably should do is buy a house. Is that fair? I think that's kind of what we leave school, and that I should own a house at some point, and that
That's
that
it.
does. You've heard of pensions, but what's the average age someone starts putting in a pension?
I think it's in the 30s, but obviously the government pension scheme, auto enrolment workplace pensions is kind of forced to handle on that. But it's still nowhere near enough. And obviously with dentists, they start in the NHS pension when they start working for the NHS, and when they transition to private, they need to do it on their own.
Yeah.
But the difference between getting that advice early and getting it later, it just gives you more options. Same with tax planning, with Simon and Ross, and planning for the business as well. The more time, the more opportunity you've got.
Absolutely. Yeah, sorry, I derailed it there. With the case studies, if you run through one or two of those, that'd be great.
Yeah. Let's talk about the one we mentioned in terms of met a lady that runs a really successful practice, wanted to grow. And actually, when I first started talking to her, she just wanted to look at some corporate investments and look at investing in some stocks and shares through a company. And she was quite hard to pin down, as dentists generally are. And we started talking about what she wanted to do, and she said, I've done really well with this practice. I didn't imagine myself being in this position. But I want to buy another practice, and I've seen a few things that I like, and we really drilled down into the detail. And basically what she wanted to do was spend time with her husband and with her daughter before she left to live her life, flew the coop, and buy a small holding and have some animals and just really enjoy your life doing that, which is a complete opposite of buying another practice, because once you've got one organised, you've got headaches that you're going to have to deal with, and it's difficult, and that's just going to absorb time, and we should really be looking at time as a resource. So what we did was we sat down and we said, okay, what we need to do is we'll look at how much you need based on your income. We talked about how much income her and her husband needed. Husband loved his job, wanting to keep working until he couldn't, basically. And then we crunched the numbers and we said, well, you need to be putting in X a month. Let's just max out your pension. Let's put £5,000 in a month for the next, I think it's about 8 years until she wanted to sell up, which is when she thinks her daughter would be leaving the house. And then we know we needed an exit value of a certain amount as well. So then that gave her the clarity of saying, well, actually, I know I can afford to sell the business for X. And what was really important for her, she built a business with a really strong culture, and she wanted to make sure that remained when she sold it. So we even spoke about, actually, you could reduce the sale value. If you knew it was going to be enough to sell it to somebody you'd rather sell it to for that legacy.
That's absolutely massive. So we broadly know in dentistry that you're going to get the best price from a private equity-backed corporate, broadly, because they've got the most money to buy you. That comes with conditions. So regardless of what corporate wrapper is around it, it is private equity money, and that only really has the agenda of buying EBITDA and revenue and growing that way. It's rarely, they will say they want to develop the business, and it's not that they don't want to, it's not really what they're in the business of, if that makes sense. So I really don't like the asset eggs being in the only basket of your dentistry. So when you sell, that has to hit all of your retirement requirements. I think that's, you're kind of hamstringing yourself. I apologise for the background noise. We've got some roadworks happening outside the office. Hopefully it's not too bad. It kind of gives you options. That's the thing, the kind of mitigation gives you significant options. So you can be more bullish with not having to sell to private equity. And equally, you can kind of say, price might be 10, 15% lower, but I'm selling to someone who is going to, it's probably going to give me a shorter tie-in, and I don't have to work for a corporate for a period of time. And I'm not saying working for a corporate is bad, it's nice to have the option not to.
Yeah.
When we discussed this a lot, so like I did a webinar a bit ago with 32Co, and it was like, should I be an associate or a practice owner? And kind of in summary, it was like, if you want a really predictable, reliable and lucrative career with work-life balance, you should be a dental associate.
Yeah.
And if you want something that's going to take over your life for however long you've got it, demand every moment you've got, not give you any holidays, not give you work-life balance, it may, but no guarantees, give you a greater asset return, and it may, probably be the most important one, be something you're really proud of and have really enjoyed ultimately doing, be a practice owner. But to zoom in on the associates, I kind of think it's quite straightforward, the career trajectory and what their kind of strategic plan should be. It's kind of get to a point where you're delivering high-value dentistry, and that can be just within the kind of remit of general dentistry as well. It doesn't mean you have to start doing implants or ortho. You can make a really good living and have worked the amount of days that you want, set up a limited company, because it gives us a platform for tax mitigation, which might be putting an electric car through the company, there's all different things we can do and start contributing to a pension. So how do you work with someone that's kind of at that point, they've kind of got their limited company in place, they're earning well, let's say they're earning 100 grand a year for the sake of argument, what's their journey for the next kind of 10, 20 years, I suppose?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a really important one, that you have all the information to make an informed decision about it.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to buying a practice, you're kind of handcuffed for a few years,
Yeah,
even if you
100%.
wanted to get rid of it, because you've got the debt usually. So it's important to know that. So the options are, you need to speak to somebody. You need to speak to someone that can map out and actually say, if you can put 60 grand, well, let's say if you've got someone that's got 100 grand, if you can start by putting 30 grand a year into your pension,
Yeah.
you know, it's great for tax reasons, but you start to build up a big pot of money. If you keep on doing that year and year, and if you are, you know, advancing your career, doing more courses, increasing your earning, you can step that up to 60 maybe for the last few years.
Yeah.
When your income, maybe the kids have flown the coop and your income, you've got a bit more disposable income.
Yeah.
Then you can really build a big pot, and it goes back to what do you really want to do, what lifestyle. I think that lifestyles are the really important thing here. What lifestyle do you want? If you're really entrepreneurial, you may want to go down the practice route, because that's where you get your buzz from, your thrill, you want to build something. If you just want to keep your head down and spend time with your family and work 4 days a week,
Yeah.
you know, the associate thing is probably the best route. So again, it's about knowing, actually, I can do this. And it's about trade-offs. So it's say, okay, well, actually, I want to spend time with my family doing X, Y, and Z, and I want to retire at, let's say, age 50. And I can say, well, you know, if we go down this route, that's not going to happen. But what you can do is you can retire at, let's say, 58, for argument's sake. And you can do all the things you want to do with your kids while they're still at home. You know, you kind of take them to Disneyland and do those big experiences. You can still do all that, but it involves having clarity and being able to then make a decision off the back of it.
I definitely think the qualifier, for us to massively simplify it, just realise this when we're speaking then, it's like, if the concept of work-life balance, you want them to be distinct from each other, I would be an associate.
Yeah.
If you kind of just say life is life and work is kind of part of what I do, and having a business is like a big part of what you do and probably a big part of your identity, then it's okay to have a business. So both me and my wife have businesses. She's got a hair salon, I've obviously got Hive, and we've got 2 young kids. We actually spend loads of time with them, but the trade-off is we don't really kind of go on holidays because there's like a disproportionate amount of time to travel somewhere. So we might go for a weekend somewhere in Cornwall, which is 20 minutes, you know, we live in Cornwall, so it's like 20 minutes to the coast. But we've kind of structured it in a way that we have loads of family time, but it just has trade-offs. And it does mean that we kind of work strange hours, and sometimes on a Sunday, you know, my wife works every other Sunday because it kind of makes things work better, but actually that's okay because I have the whole day with the kids. But we've very much committed to the fact that a huge part of our lives is our businesses, and it's not something we can kind of roll up to at 9 a.m. and leave at 5 and not worry about. We're thinking about it all the time, but I like it, so it's kind of okay. It might kind of, if you like it, it'll be great, and it'll be a good thing that you do. If you don't like it, it's pretty, you know, what's reason, if someone's kind of, so you'd hope a kind of dentist gets to up to earning about 150k, so what's someone earning 150k, what would be reasonable for them to kind of chuck away in a pension, and what would that look like at their retirement point? Like, what's the total number?
The classic answer to that question in our industry is it depends.
Oh.
You know, it depends on burn. It depends on burn rate. It depends on how much you spend. Yeah, I've got clients that spend 30 grand a year and make 150 grand just because that's just how they have their lifestyle.
Yeah.
So the answer is it completely depends on how much you need to spend. We get squeezed when, you know, we might have, when you're having kids, one salary, you're living off one salary potentially, you know, private school fees, and when kids are at home. That's the
big one.
That's when you get really squeezed.
They're the really big ones,
yeah,
basically.
exactly. And you get really squeezed in that period. So it's about knowing, well, let's just put in what we can. Let's make sure it's affordable and make sure we've got an emergency fund, but let's make sure that we know what that limit is. And it might just mean, and again, we can talk about some other client examples, but it might just mean you're going to have to work an extra few years, and it's fine if you understand that. And I think a lot of associates I meet are absolutely fine with that. And in fact, what their plan is, it's to step down the days instead of completely just...
Well, I mean, that's it. Like, it could be you work a few more years, or it could be you work 4 days rather than 3, or 5 days rather than 4.
Exactly.
Like, there's kind of iron laws of economics, isn't there? And you can't beat them. Like, Ross sometimes gets it where, like, someone might have got themselves in a bit of a pickle, and they go, Ross, I want to call a meeting, and they believe he has some kind of financial magic wand, but the ship's often sailed if you're in the pickle. If you kind of say, oh, I see something on the horizon that's not great, at that point we can do something about it. It's a bit like it's happened, you know, more times than I can count on my hands. People have come to us where they're kind of saying, I'm 70, all I've got is my practice. I need to retire. What do I do? And we're kind of like, we can sell the business, but they're saying I can't work there, so that devalues it. And if you know, there may be other complications. So actually, even though they've had a really, you know, well-paid, lucrative career, because of poor financial management, essentially earlier, they're in a position where their retirement's going to look pretty difficult because they can't rely on their labour to generate income anymore. So
stressful as well when you get to that point, and you know you are handcuffed to that practice. And the tragedy is, you know, if you could have had some planning right further down the road, even, you know, 5 years before that, you know, 10 years before that, it could make a massive impact. You know, it could go to the point, you know, where they don't have many more years left. And they've had potentially 5-10 years of good time with their family taken away from them.
Do people like usually review it every year with you? Because it's funny, like because I'm despite my best advice, I'm quite weighted towards kind of businesses as my investment, crypto and stuff. I don't know if we'll go down that rabbit hole today, because there's slightly different opinions there. And I do have a pension, but I know I'm not as good as I should be with my pension. I don't even know what the definition is of it. Is it something, so I'm 36, should I be kind of annually thinking, right, okay, this is my income, these are my expenses, this is my tax position, because obviously the more you earn, your tax get more complicated. Should I be reviewing it every year, what I'm contributing, or is it less frequent or more frequent, I suppose?
Yeah, you should be reviewing it every year, I think, because things change, you know, life changes. There's obviously big changing events, but also, like we mentioned, kids going to school and those type of things changes. So in terms of, if we're looking at everything, and I think a lot of traditional IFA are like pensions focused, whereas we need to look at the whole picture. You know, if we're building a pot up to move house or something like that, we need to be thinking about, well, do we actually need to be taking extra dividends out and putting it in an ISA and doing that as well? So yes, you should be reviewing it every year, but I think it's really important to get involved earlier on, because a lot of it's about education, a lot of it's about understanding what you've got in front of you and how you can structure things and how your professional team can structure things. And once you start to learn that, and also about investments and compound interest and all the things we kind of briefly mentioned at school at some point.
I don't remember much from school, to be honest. But here's what is so when your perception of what success is only ever based around income, because you don't really understand how anything works. I remember, as we discussed it, that when you go to uni, I remember the phrase, it's the cheapest, you'll get your student loans, the cheapest debt you'll ever get. I had no idea what I was talking about, but I'd repeat that to everyone that would listen. And you go to your meeting with the bank manager, which you were able to do back then. It's a crazy thing, first year student meeting with the bank manager, give you a credit card. It's like you don't understand any of these things, but you kind of go, okay, this is great, let's roll on with it. But it's, for me, because you naturally, inherently, we both come from a sales background, is kind of chase income as your first marker. The most rewarding thing, I think, is the wealth building side of it. But, you know, across the board, like it's just quite nice, because when you get, you know, late Friday night, an email comes in, everything's really stressful, you're like, what's it all for? It's not about what's in your bank account, because hopefully you don't have too much cash in there because it's a race. It's actually going, do you know what, I've got this thing I haven't even had to do anything for today that's just nicely growing over there. And it's, I don't know, it gives you some kind of comfort and peace of mind that it's worthwhile, because broadly people's expenditure goes up with their income. So it kind of neutralizes itself. It's like, I've gone from a 1 series to a 5 series because I got a raise, and it's like, it's not going to help you in 20 years' time, is it?
No, that's just the treadmill, isn't it? The hedonistic treadmill.
Yeah, well, I've definitely I try not to be too prescriptive with things, apart from I think, like, fundamentally businesses should make money, which surprisingly some people don't realise that's what they're there for. But like I am saying, like definitely in our economic times, unless you like really need it, and I spend money frivolously as well.
Yeah.
Like don't be doing things just because that's what you do. You've like got more income. I suppose we best go on a holiday that's twice as expensive. It's kind of what's important to you. If it's a nice family holiday, maybe just do the same one before. If it's a nice one, it's not got this cash burning a hole in my pocket.
Yeah.
I should spend it all on this like massive trip of a lifetime, because guess what? You're going to come back from it soon.
Yeah.
Why not chuck it in a pension and have some freedom or whatever it might be? It's definitely think the time for kind of messing around financially is over. But yeah, like I say, it's what makes it more rewarding.
Yeah, I think that's that endorphin hit, isn't it? That you geared when you're younger. You know, you get your pocket money, spend it on sweets, and it literally just goes up through the ages, and you kind of think, oh, do you know what? I've been working bloody hard. I'll treat myself, and then you stand, what am I doing?
It doesn't go away either.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I think you just need to be, more conscious of it. And I think everyone knows they want to spend time with their kids, financial security. But if you have more of a focus on it, I find, and it helps doing what I do anyway, having these conversations regularly. But you more focus on the importance of those experiences instead of the financial stuff.
Yeah.
Once you're more, not more aware of it, but it's been highlighted, I guess, and it's like a personal vision, and it's there.
Yeah, one of a mutual friend of ours actually once said to me that his marker of success, like financial comfortability, it's not a word I don't think, was being able to go to the petrol station and fill up his car and not think about it. And I was like, that's bang on the money. And like for me, it's, should we go for lunch? And I don't have to go, where in the month am I?
Yeah.
Like, am I overdraft or not? Like, which for a big part of my kind of whole life earlier on, never had any money. You've known me for a long time. Never had any money. It's not good at personal financial management. But yeah, when you can so it's like income, so I don't have to sweat the small stuff, or the weekly shop, whatever it is. I'm not saying you shouldn't go on holiday, sounding like I'm really anti-holiday, but it's like you can don't kind of do it because that's what you feel you should do to reward yourself. Do it if you really want to do it. It's genuinely something you want to do. But it's going to make your life so much better if you kind of think about that investment piece, that wealth piece. So I know you've got strong feelings, which I agree with, on property side of things. I might just kind of pull it back a step before that. So we're kind of saying that dentists will often have goodwill in the business. They should be investing with you, or however that might look. Do you ever kind of, not encourage, but if someone's like, I also want to invest in whiskey or something like that, how do you kind of have that conversation? Because you can kind of, part of you's going, I think, give you this predictable return over here. That's kind of been predictable going back a very long time type thing. And they go, but, there's an emerging market in Asia for whiskey. So, this is what I'm thinking happens here. What would you say to that? I think I know.
I say, well, actually, I say, you can do those things as long as it's less than 5% of your kind of liquid assets. So, I would always rule it out and expect it goes to zero in our plan. So we build a plan based on returns, historic returns, the data that we've got available to us. In basic summary, I'd put it down to investing in the best companies in the world, but would give them that 5% if they wanted some crypto. It may be that they're really invested, or they want to do something like that, so that when their children get to age 21, they've got a barrel of whiskey that they can give them. So it's not. It's kind of an investment, but it's more of a
it's some kind of legacy thing.
Exactly.
Nicer, I guess.
Which is common. So it's a playpen, the way I'd frame it. A playpen of 5%. If you want to invest in a single company, or because there's, over the years I've seen so many people that have been thinking about a single stock, and obviously it can go in the right direction. A lot of people putting a lot of their assets into.
And you're going to be knee-jerky with it as well. We were discussing it yesterday, that we had another mutual friend who said if they had a time machine, go back in time, invest in Amazon, like kind of in the early days. Easy. Great, easy. You're going to be really rich. But then, okay, A, how do you execute that investment? And B, how do you keep it in there? Because it's not always going on this kind of static trajectory. Like, zoom out, looks great. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of diversification across. How many businesses did you say?
Yeah, usually there's about 14,000 different businesses. Yeah. And Amazon's a good example, actually. If that, our friend that was going to do that, there was a point where the stock price dropped by over 90%, I think it was. And it was in one of Bezos' interviews where he was saying, look at the business metrics, everything's really good, everything's great, we're growing, everything's on track. The market's just, for whatever reason, we're being irrational. It's about being able to sit in your seat when you're doing that, and there's not many people that can do it. There is an argument for the investment strategy, which is really concentrated, which hedge fund managers like Stanley Druckenmiller, and you hear people like Peter Thiel, who are obviously really successful investors, early investor in Facebook, but there's not, they're few and far between. You know the names of these people generally, and it's not for an average investor. It's just not the volatility and everything that comes in. We need a bit more certainty, and that's the thing that diversification can really give you.
Well, you can afford to take risk as well, because that's what they're kind of built to do. Whereas we're trying to mitigate as much risk to give kind of stability in the future. And I suppose it's a good example of very much mine and very much Hive's philosophy that you should never have a single advisor, because you're getting a single opinion. So, I might have a slightly different 5% number. It might be slightly higher for me, but that's purely based on your risk appetite, because it is inherently you haven't got that long view of what kind of predictable performance is. But it might be a bit more fun to have a bit more stuff to play around with. But then again, that gets priced into the long-term financial plan. You've got this, and it's more than a safety net. It's say no, you'll have your lifestyle in retirement. You've done it. You've kind of worked with David and the team, and it's sorted.
And if someone did have want to explore more than that 5%, and we said, well, actually, this 90%, you're going to be okay. So therefore, then that's okay. That kind of does make sense.
That's fantastic, David. Thanks very much for your time today. If anyone's watching this and saying, I want to speak with David and the team, what do they do next?
Go on LinkedIn, you can find me on there, or our website, visiondentalwealth.co.uk. Reach out to a member of the team, and we'll also share a link to the website and the phone number in the description.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Good stuff. Pleasure as always.